Good evening and welcome to a very special edition of Antioch West Live. We're so glad you're here tonight, and I believe tonight is going to be life-changing for those of you that are watching. This is our fifth time doing this, and so we're so glad that you're here tonight watching with us. And I pray that over the next few minutes that God would minister to you and that when you leave this broadcast, that you will leave forever changed because of the Word of God and what God can do in your life. Once again, remember, if you're from Antioch West and you're watching, please text the number at the bottom of the screen. Let us know you're watching. We'd love to know so that we can kind of keep track of the reach that we're having and the participation that's going on. But we're not going to spend a lot of time tonight with a lot of preliminaries because we want to get straight into the subject for tonight. And I've got three amazing people here that are our guests. Debbie Owen, some of you know her from Antioch West, and Liz Johnson from Antioch West. And a very special and honored treat tonight to have Brother John Smith with us. And Brother Smith, we're so glad that you're here tonight. And each one of them has a story to tell. Each one of them has their own journey through grief to healing. And I know tonight as they tell their story and we talk through this, I believe those of you that are out there that are on your own journey, that God will help you. So let's get into this right away, and we're going to go down the line and just give me a little bit of a story of sort of why you're in this chair tonight. Obviously, if you're here, those that are watching know that you have a story. So give us a little bit of why you're here. We'll start with you, Debbie, and tell us why you're sitting in this chair tonight telling your story.
Well, I'm sitting here tonight because 7 years ago, I was faced with death of my daughter that was unexpected. And I'm sitting here tonight because I want to share with everyone how God has helped me and brought me through to where I am today.
Awesome. 7 years. I can't believe 7 years, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Liz?
I've lost multiple family members to a heart condition that runs in my family. And it's the first one was my dad, and that's been 17 years,
wow,
which I can't believe.
Wow.
And then my sister, my brother, an aunt, and an uncle. So I'm here to talk about that.
And I'm pretty sure, sort of like what Debbie said, I know your dad and your sister and your brother were all sudden. I don't know, but the
they
others,
were all very sudden.
All of them was just sudden. Brother Smith, what's your story while you're sitting here tonight?
July 16th, 1987, my wife, Patty, of just short of 10 years, Amber, Melanie, and Cassie, were all killed in a car accident, which left me with third-degree burns over 35% of my body, and the Lord talked to me while I was in the fire.
So you lost wife and three kids, am I correct in that?
And she was 5.5 months pregnant at the time.
Wow. And all of them died in the car, and you were the only one
to walk through the fire.
Wow. So obviously you can see here tonight already we have three extremely powerful and unique stories from various degrees and various backgrounds. And so somewhere in your own story you can relate to one or multiple of these stories. Let's get into this part here because I feel like this is there's a stages in all this. Let's talk about sort of that initial period of time where you're just shocked, whatever you want to say. There's so much. What was that like for you, Debbie? That first, you get the call, it's happened, and what was that like for you?
Well, actually, 4 hours before I got the call, Ramona had came by to kiss me goodnight, say she'll see me in church tomorrow. And I said, okay, Mommy, see you in church tomorrow. Her and her husband went home. And about 4 hours later, I got a call from her husband saying, Mom, come and get me. They took her. I said, who took her? He said, the ambulance took her. They wouldn't let me go. So we rushed up and got him. I was on the way to the hospital thinking I was going to be bringing her home and take care of her, or we were going to get her back to health. And I got to the hospital. They wouldn't let me back there. We waited in the waiting room and saw the doctor coming down the hall. And you can kind of tell something's wrong by the look on the doctor's face. And I'm like, oh no. So the doctor told me they lost her. And I said, no, you didn't. I just kind of lost it. I went in the room. I tried to clean her up. I think I was in shock for 2 years.
2 years.
About 2 years. I couldn't sleep. I was in shock, looking around corners, expecting her to show up.
For 2 years. Wow. 2 years. How about you, Liz? I know it's very hard sometimes because there's multiple situations here, but probably let's go back to the first one. Your father, obviously, that was before you were married. You're married now, and you got 3 beautiful
my
kids.
dad,
But your dad was not that your brother and sister weren't impeccable,
Right.
but your dad, that's a major thing. How about it for you?
so my dad, he was, I think, the only one that I was home. Like you said, I wasn't married yet, so I was home when he passed away, and I just remember my mom banging on my bedroom door, telling me to call 911, and she was trying to revive him. I called 911, and it literally felt like it took years for them to get there. And after they got there, our house was this really long rancher, and so it had this really long hallway that we used to joke and say was like a bowling alley, which was fitting because my mom was a manager at one. And so we all huddled in my sister's room. It was me and my little brother. My little brother, he's only a year younger than me, and my little sister. And I was 17 at the time. And we could hear the EMTs going past us, and it's just and my sister and brother, they had less of an idea what was going on than I did, because they didn't even, I was there, I was on the phone with 911 until they got there. I let them in, so I was sitting there on 911, with them, watching my mom with my dad, and you hope, of course, but I feel like I kind of knew. I'm not really sure.
To Dee's point, though, she said 2 years. How long? I mean, how long? I mean, how long did you deal with sort of the shock of just the whole moment of that? How long did it take just even be able to process? I mean, you just processed it beautifully there, but I mean, I guarantee you that was a journey just to be able to get to where you can say that. How long was that journey, just the initial journey of just processing the moment?
That one, with my dad, I feel like I took longer to process it because I feel like I distracted myself with other things.
So you just said, I'm not going to deal. Yeah, I'm not going to
and
deal with it.
my family will tell you, even now, still, I'm really good at compartmentalizing my emotions and feelings. So, but it was, I don't know about years, but it was months. I remember we did a party for my mom, a surprise party, and I remember at the party looking around for him and like literally wanting to be like, Dad, like, and just that, like, just whole.
How long was the space between when your dad passed away and then you had your brother?
My dad was 1999, and then my brother was, oh my gosh, he was 23. So it was about 7 years, yeah.
So the thing I guess the point I'm trying to get at for you though is sort of like the difficulty for your journey is sort of once you finally process one, there's another one, and then your brother passes away suddenly, and then you may not even had a chance to start processing that, and then it's your sister, and so it's like sort of the compounding of that through all that. Brother Smith, yours is very unique because you sort of have it seems to me there was a dual thing in here. You're dealing with the immense weight of losing your wife, 3 children, and pregnant baby, and then you're dealing with your own physical pain, physical damage, the stuff that happened. How did you even begin to even face that?
I had to go to the church every day and pray, whatever it takes for me to change, she was willing to do, but she didn't want to leave the girls. And 1 week before she died, she had told the pastor's wife those very words. And 1 week later, on the way to get my teeth pulled, I need someone to drive. And I'm sitting in the car. I feel the car moving, and I look up and I hear her say, "Oh God." Those are the last words I hear. And within, I can't tell you the moments of between. And I wake up in the car on fire without any pain. And something shook me as though just to briefly shake my shoulder. Said, Patty and the girls are dead, but you have to go on. I want you to go back into the darkness and bring my light. And in the midst of that is the light that's shining in my face. The car is so hot that the windshield bolt stretches and explodes outward. That's how hot and intense the fire was inside. But I felt no pain. And as I could hear a voice outside, I had to climb through the window because the car was jammed and I couldn't open it. As I climbed through the window and through the fire, I hear a voice call me, so I go and I lay down. I said, God, why now? Because I had not been the husband, father, or anything that I should have been. I said, this is what it took to get your attention.
Goodness gracious.
But everything will be all right. The pain of being burned balanced out the pain of depression inside.
So, Brother Smith, were you saved at this time?
No, I'd been baptized in March of '87, but I ran. I literally just ran. So being saved I was not saved. I had thought about it. I'd come to the church and sit on the doorstep and listen to the preaching and leave before the church was out. I was miserable. And the Lord said, this is what it took to get your attention, but everything will be all right. Time of processing in the hospital, 7 weeks. The Lord continued to speak to me and brought me to a place when I had to look in the mirror because my face was gone, literally burned off. And I had to come to grips with not being a monster on the outside, so it can't be one on the inside. Well, there's not a monster on the inside, it won't be on the outside. And the Lord my therapist asked me, who are you mad at? I told her, I said, who should I be mad at? Should I be mad at the road systems? Should I be mad at Patty for driving? Should I be mad at God for allowing this? Or the person I should really be mad at is me, because I was a catalyst that got all this started.
How did you deal with, and we'll kind of go back through this again. Let's start here with you, because I think you're sort of leading us into this. How did you deal with, you sort of got your answer to the why through what was spoken to you by the voice in the fire, but obviously you're sort of alluding to it. Did you battle with this sort of what would be the right word to put it, regret and all these emotions, the negative emotions, like through all this, knowing, okay, yeah, the voice kept me through the fire, but the whole reason this happened was me. I mean, how did you even start to face that and begin the process of sort of facing the why of it? You knew the why. I mean, you're very blessed because you got the why, but I'm not sure if knowing the why in that situation didn't lead to other things.
It brought me to a point of, I've been down this road before. I have to go in a different direction. I came home, as soon as I got home, after I got out of the hospital, released from the hospital, my mom had a picture of my family on the bed. And I looked at it immediately and I wanted to break down. And I told myself, you can't break down right now. You can later, but not now. And wasn't quite putting it in a compartment. I just started over again. My personality was not the same. I didn't look the same. I'm sorry, ladies, you both look the same.
Yeah.
I had a marred in the hands, so he made me anew. In the process of making me anew, he made everything about me new. I arrived in the hospital in the worst condition I could possibly be in. I was just short of dead.
Was there ever a point in time you laid there and had any just moments where you wish, man, I wish I would have just died as well? Or did you feel like that voice, you kept hearing that voice give you purpose? Or was there ever a time where you're just like, you know what, I wish I would have just gone with them. Why am I still left here with this?
I never had survivor's guilt. I had much. Why now?
Yeah, that's
Why now?
mm.
When you come to a conclusion to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, why now? When I wanted better and I had better, why now? Couldn't you have chosen a better time? Weeks, days, months. But that's what it took. And being so crumbled, being so messed up, and then given a chance to, as the Lord breathed life into Adam and he became, Lord literally breathed new life into me so that I could become something that I never was before.
Wow.
And those steps were every day, every day,
Every day.
every day, every day of going from, I forget, maybe 10 to 11 operations over a 7-week period to bandages every 4 hours, taking them off, putting on new ones every 4 hours. Everything hurt, but every time it hurt, it stopped hurting. It was, Lord, like puzzle piecing, putting me back together in pieces until he made me whole. And I never thought about it in that manner. That's the way I have been even to today. He keeps putting these puzzle pieces of me together so I can be whole.
Goodness gracious. Liz, let's go to you for a second here. How did you begin to process or face the why? Did you struggle with the why? I mean, especially in your situation here, you have so many losses stretched out, direct family members. I mean, obviously the aunt, uncle are very important, but I mean, your father, brother, sister. You ever kind of wonder, why, God, why?
Yes, all the time. And still, I mean, I still question it. Especially, when I see my nieces and my nephew, and they don't have a mom. It's just, my nieces are teenagers now, and they don't have a mom, and I still don't know why. I still don't understand why. And my other niece, she lost her dad. She doesn't even remember him, and I definitely question why on that as well. It's just, and my dad. Those first days after, seeing my mom, it was almost like I could put aside my own because it had to be there for her.
Yeah.
And that was a constant question. And I was very angry, a lot, very angry. And yes, why was definitely a huge, huge question.
Debbie, what about you? Because obviously yours is a unique story too, because Ramona was your only child. And that one thing for you, and did you, during that 2-year period you talk about, took 2-year period of just shock, was there a why in that period where you searched for the why in all of this?
Yes, I did. And I actually, up until now, sometime I say why when I look around at other people's children, grandchildren, I kind of say, God, why? I remember your father calling me in his office. I think it was that Monday after the burial, and he said, if you don't pour love in, you're going to die. He said, because you poured love into her. And I remember telling her the week before she died that, Mona, you're all I got. And she said, Mommy, I'll always be here. She said, I'll always be with you. And a week later, I would go stand on my porch after the funeral, day after day. I had nothing to say to God. I didn't know what to say to God. I didn't want to question him. But in my mind, there were whys. The day that she died, I cried that day, not knowing that I was going to face that something was going to happen. But the way I laid around crying was like something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. So when she died, it was a part of me. I felt like I had to live all over again because a part of me had died. How do you face that? Up until about 2 months ago, your wife gave me I want to say a 4-page text. She said she was praying. She said, this is what the Lord gave her. The day I was crying, she said, he had you crying for yourself. Because I told the way I was crying, I didn't understand what I was feeling. And I said, the pain, I can't even express the pain. The pain is there and it comes. I can't even say it goes. It comes. And a little bit of the why, I think you preached the message, and a little bit of the why started to come together. You get through it. You get through it, but the pain stays there. The intensity of the pain is not as bad. The intensity of that pain is not as bad because of God and the people that God surrounds you with. I got cards for 2 years straight almost every week. I ran into somebody just a week ago and they said, where's your daughter? I haven't seen her. I go through this a lot. I go in Walmart. Where's your daughter? She haven't been in here. At first, I would stand there and I just bawl because I didn't even know what to say. Then when I do answer, they start crying. But God is showing me that he is really helping me through this. Because when I ran into somebody she used to bring to Sunday school, and he was asking for her a month ago in Lowe's, and I told him what happened, and I didn't start crying.
But now you're talking about for you, and Brother Smith saying 1987, Liz is 17 years, yours is 7 years. If you're watching tonight, and maybe you're just in the beginning of your grief journey, I think all of them can tell you that it's a journey.
It's a journey.
I mean, brothers, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No.
And there's no timeline. She's talking about 7 years, and there are times still when I hear something on the radio or a joke pops in my head that only my brother would laugh at because we have the same sense of humor. And there's no timeline. Nobody has the right answer on how to deal with it.
Nope.
It's just.
Brother Smith, I think you mentioned this sort of in that moment you're talking about, and Debbie, you said the same thing. It's almost, there's a starting over process there. And in your case, they're legit, starting over from scratch. Your husband, 3 kids, another one on the way, and you're starting over. But you made a very powerful statement in that whole process you were talking, and how you sort of just began to face it day by day. Did you allow yourself to look beyond the day, or did you sort of just stay in the moment? Were you just trying to live in the moment, faced with what was ahead of you the best you could?
This, in a sense, is constantly preparing. Get through this so you can do this. I would surround myself with pretty people. So I would get through all the comments, all the stares, all the people literally were frightened of the way I looked.
Yeah, speak to that just for a second, because you're dealing with sort of this double-edged sword here. You're dealing with your own internal pain of loss. You're dealing with the physical pain, physical damage, but then you're dealing with a whole new world of sort of adjusting to this whole world and the shame that people want to throw on you because of the way you look and the damage that was done, and people saying that. I mean, how do you even begin? I'm sitting here right now. I'm sure they can say the same thing. I mean, how do you even begin to process that in any way?
I had a mask. I had Job's garments on, and it included a mask. Went from the head of my, it covered me down to my ankles. Even my hands were covered, all the way down to my ankles. I had on a Job's outfit to help to control the scars. And I would go to high schools. I go to colleges. And I'd go to different places where they asked me just to talk about it. From Salisbury, I asked me to talk to social work classes. A therapist asked me to go to her master's class. And I would go into places and I'd tell them, especially high school, I'd take my mask off. I said, this is what I look like. This is it. I take off my mask and you put yours on.
Oh, that's good.
You hide every day what you look like.
Wow.
I have to expose myself to you so that you can get used to seeing me. And once you can't read a book by its cover. You can't judge me. You have to learn to accept what I am now. I'm not who I was. I am, but I'm not.
Wow. So how long so I sort of use this terminology, the new normal. How long did it take you in that process to sort of feel normal again? And whatever normal is, I know that's a sort of an ambiguous way of saying that.
Normal became what I am now.
How long did it take you to get to? Because you're obviously very comfortable now, and you share your story beautifully.
This is over the process of months, almost into years, because I was still changing. My color was still changing. My features were still changing. Even when I just movements now, I still change.
Wow. So in a lot of ways, I think everybody's kind of hitting on this in a different way. Even though you're sitting here tonight and all of you have made such beautiful progress, the story's not over with, because you still face this on an ongoing. I mean, you still face it, like you're saying, every time you see somebody else's child, grandchildren, you face it, Liz, at every situation where you want to turn to see your dad there, Brother Smith, you face it every time you look into the mirror. You guys, and I don't want to sound depressing. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to depress you, but there's not an end to the process, but you allow the Lord to sort of help you learn how to navigate the process. Am I correct on that? I think sometimes people expect one day it's all going to be over with and I'll just move on. Or as you were saying earlier, Liz, some people just get completely lost and just don't even deal with it.
I can actually say there's a beauty in the grief. You can find a beauty in it. When your father had told me I need to find children who are people to just pour love into, that has helped me to progress on, even though the pain is still there. But like I said, there's no intensity to it like it was when it, years ago.
I know you're very close to my 3
I
kids.
find, and when I find that I do that, it does something to that void, that pain in there. When I find people to love, to pour myself into, God has actually led me down that path, and there's a beauty in it. I relate back to Ramona. I'm loving, all these people are loving me because you have left me with a void that I have to fill, and it's a beauty in it. It has blessed me. It really has blessed me.
How about you, Liz? Sort of, as Debbie was saying, finding sort of purpose in the pain. How did you begin to find, or still maybe adjusting to sort of finding, okay, there's pain here, but through the Lord's help, we can find there's purpose in the pain.
When my dad died, I remember people coming up and telling us that, oh, for his funeral, that was the first time my husband or so-and-so had been in a church in years, and your dad brought him here, kind of thing. Or even, afterwards, he came because he loved your dad so much, or she came, and it happened with my brother and sister too. And I just remember thinking, like, why did it have to be them? Like, why couldn't you just come on your own? Why did he have to die so you become a church? Like, that's not fair.
I remember hearing one preacher said that he had
Right.
lost his young baby boy, little child. I think it was maybe an infant, and someone had said to him, God's got another flower in his garden, and his reaction
Yes.
was, why did God have to take my baby boy to get another flower?
Yes.
Why couldn't he just make a flower? Why do you have, and so it's sort of, people just,
They really
people
don't.
try to help,
They do.
but sometimes it's just like, it's better just to
Smile.
stop talking,
Yeah.
smile, give a hug, and don't say
Yes.
anything at all.
Right.
Because saying something exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
like, get the church on your own. Stop, why did you have to take my father to
Yeah.
get the church? I mean, it's sort of the crazy thing. Brother Smith, now we're here, it's 30 years later, almost
Yes.
31 years later.
Yes.
And you said earlier, we were talking off camera before we started, someone was going to be 40 years old.
Amber would be actually 7, 8. Good grief. She'd be 39.
Wow.
39, 40 this year.
And that was your oldest.
Yeah, they were 8, 6, and 3.
8, 6, and 3. 39 years old today.
Wow.
But now, through this process, you're married again,
Yes.
and God's blessed you with a wonderful wife
Beautiful.
and a beautiful family.
Mhm.
So as you begin to look back at finding that purpose in the pain, you obviously had a very unique story because you had almost purpose from the very beginning, as you said, sort of walking through the fire. But as that has separated, has that purpose grown even more intense in you?
It does. It really does. I have been blessed with a really good wife. Really have been. In Dewana. 27, be 28 years this year.
28 years. So that was
Wow.
10 years, put them back together, about 10 years after all of this took place, you got married again?
4 years.
4
4 years after, yeah.
4 years, wow.
Yeah. But still, it's a long time.
That's amazing.
And it's, I try to be better than I was. And even in this constant process, this constant process, as you said, it still hurts.
Mhm.
Doesn't hurt as much, but it still hurts.
Is there a day that goes by, even now? Are there days that go by that you don't think about it, or is it still something that almost every day it's there in the back of your mind?
April 15th, Melanie's birthday. Tax time. June 18th coming up, Cassie's birthday. August 27th was been our anniversary. March the 24th was Patty's birthday. December 4th was Amber's birthday.
Mm.
Christmas.
Thanksgiving. All those.
It's almost, there aren't many months that go by that there's not a reminder.
Mm.
But I was telling the church, they said it has to get better. It just has to get better.
And that's what I sort of want to. We've been very heavy here for a moment. Those of you that are watching, this has been a very heavy few moments here. But you sort of hit there, and that's where I kind of want to go here for the next few minutes. People are sitting out there, and they're hearing your stories, and they have their own stories, and maybe you're dealing with grief that's just happened. Maybe you're dealing with something that's happened within the last couple of years, and you're still maybe in Debbie's situation where you're in complete shock, or maybe you're like Liz where you're completely just sort of compartmentalized it, or maybe like Brother Smith, where you're in the process of all this, and you're hearing all this, and you look at them and go, well, you know what, they're just better than me. I don't think it'll ever happen for me. Sort of, let's speak to that. When someone's asking you, let's just say someone's sitting right now, they're watching, and they want to ask you, you don't. It's so much pain. I mean, I can't even deal with this pain. Does it get better? And you've hit it. Does it get better? And how much does God play a factor in it getting better? I mean, I always say time heals all wounds, but I think that's the biggest lie
it
that's
is.
ever been told. Whoever said time heals all wounds
No, it doesn't.
never has dealt with pain. So it's not just time. Well, I'm just going to keep pressing through because there's got to be steps that we've got to take for it to get better. It doesn't just happen naturally.
Let me put it like this. I tell people there's a handprint. I can say I was burned, but I really have told people I have a brand. Because when the Lord touched me, he branded me. And anytime owners of anything, they put brand on their cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because when anybody else sees it, they recognize the brand and they know exactly who it belongs to. So I look in the mirror and I look into my mirror of my mind and I see this brand that's on me, and it constantly reminds me that the Lord is with me. He's not going to leave me because he's put his mark on me. He put a mark of ownership on me. And through this, I keep telling myself, I trust you, Lord. And because I trust you,
Even today.
even this morning, I know you hear me because I know you're listening and I know you will respond. Over and over and over. I know you hear me. I know that you're listening to me, and I know that you're going to respond. And that helps me every single day. Even when I'm doing wrong, I know you hear me.
So that constant holding on to him in the process is what's made it better, is learning that every single morning, every day, every time that you feel that, it's just to grab a hold of that hand of your Heavenly Father.
I look in the mirror. What do I see? You see a scar. I see a brand.
Wow.
This brand says, your mind. Look at Isaiah 43. You are precious in my sight. Thou art mine. So I trust the Lord that he loves me. Before my accident, he loved me. I just didn't know how much.
Wow. Branded by the hand of the Lord. Liz, let me ask you, someone asks sitting here and ask you the question, does it get better?
Yes, it does get better. Like you said, people say time heals it. It doesn't heal it. It more kind of puts a Band-Aid on it. And, sometimes that Band-Aid does get ripped off. Like, Sister Owens was saying, just someone randomly asking where Ramona is, just, it makes it all fresh again. And there are definitely times when still, when that Band-Aid gets, torn back just a little, but it does get better. It does.
How did, I'm sure there was a process in that there was some anger towards God of all this, but sort of as you kind of moved out of that and started, instead of being angry, possibly started to seek for his grace, could you say that became a catalyst? Instead of pushing him away, starting to draw near to him, is that definitely a catalyst in that progression of it getting better?
Yes. And, we don't know why it happened. I don't know why Jenny died. I don't know why Paul died. I don't know why my dad passed away. But I know that he knows why. And I was angry. And, with each person, I was angry, of course. And sometimes, I think I said before, I still question, but, somebody told me, and then I would feel a little guilty for being mad. I mean, you're mad at God. It just seems
Sort of
kind of
cutting
wrong,
exactly. Not
But
going to get very far with that.
somebody told me soon after my dad passed away, he said, it's okay to be angry at God. It's perfectly fine to be angry at God as long as you don't stay angry, because that's when the bitterness comes in, and that's when you lose hope. And that's what I hold on to is the hope of it. I'm going to see them again. Like, I'm going to see all of them again one day. And it stinks that I'm not seeing them now, and they're not celebrating, different things with us, and watching their kids grow or all of that. But I am going to see them again. Like, and we're going to all be together, and with Ramona and his family. And I have that hope,
Start
and that
growing hope.
I don't know what people do without that. I really don't. And I think that everyone in my family could say the same thing. It's just.
So so that hope for you and those of you that are watching, if you don't have that hope that and it's not just a wish, and it's not just a sort of a fairy tale ending, but because of where your heart is, where your life is, and walking with Jesus Christ, that there's a guarantee that will happen. As Liz said, it's impossible to face what you're going through without that. Debbie, you're 7 years, so you kind of have yours is. We're talking about. I know Liz has got a couple in the 7-year period, but sort of 17 years. So 7. Does it get better? I mean, it's been 7 years, but it's only been 7 years, and so it's 7 years. That's a good period of time, but it's only been 7 years.
Yes, it does get better. Going back to what Brother Smith was talking about, the trust. When I had gotten several calls, and I was being told that, Debbie, God really trusts you, and I'm going, really? Yeah. Trust me? He's going to trust me like this? And I had to really start looking into that and feeling that out, because I used to always say, I trust him because I know how much he loves me. And I used to always tell myself I was the apple of his eyes, and I believed it. And I said, so God, you're really trusting me with this? God spoke to me and said, yes, he's trusting me to trust him. And that's the only way I've gotten to this point, is trusting God. And he has not let me down. I can say it has gotten better.
Wow. Some of you that are watching, you've heard terminology just a couple of times here about trusting God. We hear about having faith in God. And faith and trust are not synonymous terms. And give you a quick definition in case you don't know these terms. Faith is in what God can do, but trust is in who God is. And so as you hear Debbie and Liz and John all talk about trusting God, they're not just talking about having faith in what God can do, but they're trusting in who God is. And the Word of God says that he's good.
Yes.
He's good. Even though when we don't see the good,
yes,
he's good. Because we as human beings, we always want to find the good, because we always want to see the good in the moment. But God doesn't just live in the moment. He lives in our past, he lives in our now, he lives in our future. And he's good all the time. Let's circle back around as we kind of wrap things up here. And someone's sitting there, and they've heard a lot of things you've said, and they've heard all your stories, and they've argued in their mind. And they're saying, well, okay, you could do that, but it's not going to work for me, or you're just better than I am. I'm not that kind of person. But sit here and all three of you, and I don't, this is going to sound funny to say it this way, but you're all very human. There's no special sauce in this. There's no superhuman ability in this. You still have the same feelings and emotions and all this. So if someone's sitting there tonight and they're arguing with you, oh, I don't know if I can do this like you did it because you're just a better person than me, how would you respond to that, Brother Smith, if someone said that to you tonight? Well, you're just a better person. I could never do that. It just you're. You have to have some kind of special abilities.
I do. Here's the special ability that I had. I cheated on my wife. Drugs, alcohol, short of murder is what I was. Anything that I conceived in my mind to do, I would do. But someone prayed for me. Her name was Patty. And God answered her prayer. Took me through the fire. As Isaiah said, the fires will kindle upon you, but you will not be consumed. I had no smoke inhalation in my lungs. I did not have pneumonia. I had no fluid buildup. I was burned. I was branded. And brands are on the exterior. They don't reach to the interior.
She had no internal damage.
Zero.
Wow.
Absolutely no internal damage.
Wow.
And it took that to release me so that I could become a man, a better father, I hope, a better husband, I hope, a better person. So when someone says, well, they're better than me, trust me, you don't know me. You don't know the depths in which I would have gone. But the Lord, even in my sin-filledness, He loved me. And He sent someone to love me and to love me again. So no one, no matter how diabolical or straight up nasty, evil, or mean that you can be, the Lord loves you. And because I have learned and am constantly learning to trust Him, set His markers on me. If the Lord puts His mark on you, you're marked. It doesn't wash off. His love doesn't wash off, doesn't change, doesn't get altered. It increases.
The Bible says, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, shed His blood for us. And I mean this with all respect, but it's amazing. It wasn't like you lived because you were such a good person. No. It wasn't like God spared you because, we always think, well, they're good. Why didn't God? I mean, really, in reality,
there's no good in me.
Really, but let's be honest. In reality, if we were judging this from a human perspective, you should have been the one that died, and your wife should have been the one that lived. She was the one that was praying for you, but the tables were flipped. And so, really, honestly, if we're going to use the term, "I'm not good enough to do what they're doing," you're in good company because, as he just said, you can't earn your way into this. There's no way to earn it. The only way to do it is to accept the forgiveness that's being offered through Jesus Christ.
The Lord saw light in me through my darkness. He saw light in me, which became His. So He said, go back into the darkness. Go back into that dark place and bring the light. Go back and find those that are in darkness, because you know what that darkness looks like, and show them light.
Liz, let me ask you this same question. Someone's looking at you tonight and say, well, you can make it, but I don't think I'm good enough to do it. How would you respond to them if they said that to you?
I would say I'm not either. When I say I trust in God and I know my hope is that I'm going to see them all again, but that doesn't mean I've done everything right since then. I trust in God, but especially after my dad died, I was 17. I wasn't doing anything right. I mean, I wasn't going out, killing anyone, but I was coming to church. I was dressing the way I was supposed to. I was checking my boxes, but that's it. There was nothing else. It wasn't like I was some wonderful spiritual person who just automatically said, I'm going to trust you and everything is going to be fine. It was never like that. And really, even I think until maybe a year ago, probably, I still question it, but trying to find the purpose in it, like you said, and I don't believe this is the only purpose, but my purpose in it, my personal purpose is, I think something like this. I was talking to somebody, I actually think it was your wife, and we were talking about loss and all that, and it was before her father passed away, and she said that she's like, you could have a ministry in this. And I so for so many years you watch people get called to preach, and you watch people get called to do this and that. And I really have never felt like I had any particular calling on my life. So no, I'm not better than anyone. I'm just like anybody else sitting on a pew, just trying to figure out what my purpose is, what I'm going to do, and dealing with my pain, but finding the purpose in it helps. And if this can help somebody, then okay, it doesn't take away the pain, but it helps to know that.
How about, Debbie, for you, someone sitting out there? Debbie has been a part of Antioch for 38 years now, so maybe they look at you and go, well, you know God a lot better than I do, so it's just because you're sort of God's second cousin, so you got the inside track to him. I don't even know. Maybe you're sitting out there now, you don't even know God. Maybe you have no clue about anything, and you look at someone like Debbie and say, well, she's some special ability to get to God. I mean,
There's a song we used to sing, or we still sing sometime, and it says, if you had known me before I knew him, you'll understand why I love him. I love him. You all don't know me before then, but he did. I did drugs, adultery. God looked down in the streets of New York and picked me up, brought me here and turned my life around. And that's before my daughter died. So he proved himself to me that he loved me and that there was a spot left in my heart. And so is a spot in your heart that only God can fulfill. Only God can fulfill. Each of us matters to God. God proved himself to me that I mattered to him. I had nothing to lose by trusting him with this.
That's a true point.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's already proved himself.
What are the options, right?
He's already
Yeah.
proved himself.
What are the options? What is a man
Yeah.
sitting there and lost his family, dealing with the physical? What are the options,
Yeah.
right?
There still is that road. There still is that crossroad, as it were, that you have to come to a conclusion. Which one you're going to go down?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have reached the lowest place in your life.
Lois.
You hurt more than you've ever hurt before, either emotional, physical, spiritual. What do you have to lose? The lepers, say, if we die, we would die.
We're going to die anyway, right?
Yeah. So let me try. And from that point on, I've trusted the Lord. Even though I may not have understood,
Right.
I still trust him. I still trust him. And I tell myself daily, Lord, I trust you. I trust you. And trust is blindly jumping. It's more than just walking on water. It's stepping over the top of Mount Everest on a plank, and that plank doesn't fall. So I trust.
I love what he said. If you're watching tonight, what do you have to lose? Give God an opportunity to help you. What
Right.
What do you got to lose? Do you think it's going to get worse? Do you think somehow it's going to make the pain greater by giving God an opportunity to help you in your life in whatever way that is, in whatever way you know God? Maybe you don't even, maybe you've never even been into a church. Maybe you have no clue that there's a Genesis and a Revelation in the Bible, but the Bible says you just call his name, he would be there. What do you have to lose by trying? I mean, sort of Liz alluded to it earlier in one of the comments she made. I mean, she started off being angry at God and knew that wasn't going to get her very far. If you're angry at God tonight and you want to make it all about God and become angry and bitter at God, where's that going to take you? So why don't you take that step back and realize, as these beautiful people have said tonight, what do you have to lose to give it a chance? Give God an opportunity to help, because I think they would all testify tonight. The only reason they're sitting here tonight telling their story is there's one common factor, and that's Jesus Christ. Without that, they wouldn't be sitting here. Let's finish up here and give you guys just one more chance to possibly address those that are watching, and just in your own words, if you had someone sitting in a chair right here that had just dealt with loss, whatever that was, a loss of a parent, whether it was a loss of a family member, a loss of a child, loss of a husband, maybe it was loss of a dream, maybe it was loss of maybe you've lost something dear to you, maybe not something of physically like a family member, but maybe you've lost something else. You're dealing with grief and pain in your life. They were sitting here. Brother Smith, what would you say to them if they were sitting here tonight?
Fear not. I use that a lot. I really do use fear not a lot. Don't be afraid to try, is what I mean. Don't be afraid to trust Jesus. He loves you. Not as you understand love. He loves you more than that. He loves you to the point that whatever it takes, wherever you are, whoever you were, whatever you've done, the Lord showed me this in forgiveness. He said, I saw it. I know where you are. I know what you've done, and I forgive you. It's as though it never happened.
Mm.
It is taking a picture and erasing it out of your gallery. It was in there, but when Jesus forgives you, he erases it out of your gallery, out of his gallery. You can't find it. You can't find it. And that's how the Lord loves you, and he forgives you. I did not tell you all of me that he forgave, because you do have to do a lot of editing. But he forgave the all of me. Not some of me.
All of it.
The all of me.
Praise God.
I know what you've done.
Praise God.
And I forgive you. It's as though it never happened. And when you trust the Lord and you ask him to forgive you, to remake you, because you know you're marred, you know you're messed up, he will.
Praise God. Praise God. So Liz, someone sitting here tonight, maybe they just lost their father, maybe they just lost their brother, sister. What would you say to them?
I would say, I already said it once, there's no timeline, there's no correct way or incorrect way to process things. I will say one thing I've learned is don't do like I did and compartmentalize. It takes so much longer to get through things, and it just makes it a harder road because, years down the road, it's like it's just brand new, fresh again, because you have to dig deeper to deal with it. So I would say don't do that. Don't do that. But and don't minimize your grief. Just because you think somebody else may have a bigger loss than you, it's still your loss. It's still your grief. It's still, like you said, your dream or your child or whatever, whoever it was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It's still your mountain. It's not a molehill. So
it's good. Don't minimize your grief. I like that. How about you, Debbie? Someone sitting here, maybe they just lost their child or they're dealing with loss. What would you tell them?
Well, I could tell them a lot, but I'm going to kind of condense this. I would tell them that God suffered loss. He understands their loss, and for them to give him a try. Trust them with their loss, that he would help them because he understands.
Yeah, the scripture says that he is a high priest that is touched by the feelings of our infirmity. As Debbie says, he's walked the same road that we have walked and knows the pain we're dealing with. Well, to say thank you would be a complete understatement. To have all of you here sharing your story, opening up your heart, letting us see the insides of your journey through the pain. So, Brother John Smith, thank you for coming and sharing with us tonight. Liz, thank you for being so open and honest. And Debbie, thank you for being here. I know all of you probably had some trepidation in doing this, but thank you for opening yourself up, sharing with those that are watching. And I know that you have blessed somebody, touched somebody, inspired somebody, given them hope. And Only eternity will know the impact that your story has had. Thank you. I know we've been a little longer than normal tonight, but thank you for staying tuned, keeping in tune. We're going to be posting this after we're done. If you know somebody, or maybe you come across somebody that is dealing with grief, share this with them. It's on Facebook. You can share it with them. Let them watch this, because I know if they would, there's somewhere in one of these stories, there's something that was said tonight in all of these grief journeys that they would be able to connect with, that would help them take one more step further in that healing process. Thank you for watching. I pray that you were blessed, that you were touched, that you were inspired, that you were ministered to by these beautiful people that have joined me tonight. Thank you for tuning in. And I know that somewhere tonight, somebody's watching, you have been touched by not just their story, not just by the reality of their story, but I know that you have been touched by the presence of God, by the peace of God, and by you're feeling the tug of God's presence saying, just give me an opportunity, give me a chance. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in tonight to Antioch West Live. Please come back and be with us again next month in July. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.